Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Bladen Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ashton. Today, we're talking about the interior defensive linemen in the upcoming NFL draft class. We've been talking about a lot of the prospects so far, and it is now interior defender time. The way we did the running back episode, we actually enjoyed quite a bit, going through the consensus big board and just kind of talking about the guys in that order, and then somewhat talking about how we have each of those guys ranked. So we're going to do the same thing for this episode as well. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon?
It really is beautiful. It's been
a
weekend of amazing weather, it seems, across the central United States. Doing pretty well, hoping that the Suns don't blow this gigantic lead that they accrued early in the game, thanks to Brad Beal hitting a bunch of threes. But now it's only a 9-point lead, and Nurkic is in foul trouble, which means Eubanks is out there. He's gotten dunked on by Gobert, and I'm forecasting that Ant has an all-time great 360 dunk from the free throw line on Eubanks by the end of this game. it's
how much time is left, Theo? How much time?
Oh, it's late in the third quarter. I'll keep my eye on it on the second screen as we go through this episode. But yeah, last day of the NBA season. Every game is on at once right now, which is kind of funny. But
yeah.
There's something very nice about the NBA playoffs lining up with the weather getting warm outside. That's what I've been thinking today. It's like, it's a beautiful day and NBA is about to get super dope. Hell yeah. I don't know. Like the finals being during summer, I always love.
Yeah,
we got to get the NFL playoffs during summer. That's what we need.
I was thinking about how crazy it must have been because O.J. Simpson died. How crazy the summer would have been if you were a Knicks or a Houston Rockets fan. Like, the vibes must have been so high. You're on this big playoff run, and then during your finals run, like the car chase happens, and then like the rest of the summer, like that whole drama is going on. Like going right from your NBA team making a huge run and like the city being electric all summer talking about that, going right into the OJ trial would be the greatest dialogue summer in your history if you're from Houston or New York specifically.
It would be pretty intense
in that time.
Yeah, I saw something on TikTok about them like pausing the finals to talk about the trial for a second, or the chase or whatnot.
The chase, they went split screen mode, basically. Like, they didn't know where OJ was, and then
that would have been some elite TV, though.
Exactly, like, and the weather's nice.
They don't make TV like that anymore, man. They don't make TV like that anymore.
They don't. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I can't imagine like that summer, especially if your team was just on the summer would have already been crazy.
Yeah, now if you want to watch sports, you have to get on Peacock and ESPN Plus, and Hulu has live sports and Prime.
True.
You don't even get the electric TV with it.
Anyway, Matt, who would your MVP be? We haven't really talked any NBA stuff, but you do.
Jokic should be. Yeah, I think it's close. I mean, Luka has had a great season, but what Jokic is able to do while also like not holding the ball for very long is probably what puts him over the edge. On top of that, like, his on-off numbers are ridiculous. The Nuggets really aren't very good without him. I know some people want to attribute that to, how the Nuggets do their rotation, but I don't think it accounts for all of it at all. And Jokic has a huge lead in that category. I think Luka's a fine pick, but I think they're going to go with Jokic, and I agree.
That's what it's seeming like. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a fine pick as well. I don't think you can go super wrong this year, but yeah, the Nuggets being, I guess I don't know what seed they are yet. It's still up in the air. but they are tied at the top of the West, 56-25, like ahead of where the Mavericks are by 6 games. Like Jokic is once again the leader in all the advanced stats, and I just think that he always will be as long as he's like motivated and playing. Like he just is the most valuable. The pressure that he puts on everything is pretty much unmatched. So it is a little Mahomes-esque or Messi-esque back in the day. Like it's just always him. LeBron-esque back in the day.
It's not, and it's
Usually the best player in the league is the most valuable one, and it's him right now. So that would probably be my take as well.
Yeah, and it's not even the advanced stats that do it for me. It's just how much he carries when he's on the court and how he's able to do it well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So whether or not they end up the 1 or the 3 seed, I think is kind of irrelevant by a game. That's one of my big pet peeves when people are talking about the MVP race and then they talk about seeding and ignore win-loss. I'm not saying that Jokic deserves the MVP because of the record or the seeding or whatever, but I hate when people will be like, well, this guy was a 6 seed and this guy was a 3 seed, and it's like a 1 game difference. It's like, yeah, you know what you're doing. The seeding sounds more different than the actual, like how good the teams were and what they were able to accomplish. So I don't know.
Ant just tried his crazy poster, but it was on KD and he didn't hit it. But we'll see.
Sad.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know if Luka is playing in this final game. Maybe he's sitting for seeding purposes or something. But I'm looking at the screen right now and it says they're down like 50. To the
I just got that notification. Yeah,
what?
Yeah, I just got the
108 and 50s. Maybe I'm wrong, bro. Maybe Luka is the greatest, and they'd win 0 games without him.
God. I got
He's
an
not
ESPN
playing?
notification. Is this score real?
It's not good when
Here
they're
it
hitting your
is.
team with the "Is this score real?" Notification.
Nope, nobody on the team is playing.
No.
Okay, then it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
You want to get in
fair
some
enough.
defensive tackles?
Let's talk about
yes.
some NFL draft prospects. Going through the consensus big board, first up is Byron Murphy. We talked about him a little bit on the last episode with Bangle. If you missed that, go back and check it out. It was a good time having Bangle back on. But since then, yeah, has anyone's perspective changed on Byron Murphy at all?
I'm very tempted to have him
little-
at number 1.
Because what do you like
play
about him?
strength is his play strength is huge, and honestly, like sometimes with the run defense, Johnny Newton makes me a little bit more nervous than Murphy. That's where I'm sitting right now.
I might disagree with you. But go ahead.
The thing that's making me nervous is that like Newton is one of those guys where he just like you don't even have to be watching him for him to pop. And maybe I'm overreacting to like the last Newton game we watched, which I didn't think was his best performance.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think there's a real argument for Murphy because he's also got a pretty big pass rushing move bag, man. And I think he uses a little bit more power. He's kind of got maybe a more, I don't want to say well-rounded game, but he's got that in his arsenal that maybe Newton doesn't quite as much.
What I would say with Murphy, he's more of a blur than Newton is. Like everything about Murphy is fast to me. Like off the ball, he's fast. Like he's got real jolt in his hands. Like he can really hit you and knock you back like instantly in a way maybe Newton can't. He versus doubles, he's so weird. I can't quite determine how I feel about him because a lot of the times he's holding up versus these doubles, but he finds himself in just the weirdest positions. And I'm just not totally sure how I feel about his play strength because of that.
I think that's perfectly
it's like,
fine. I see, but I have no problem with that, really. As long as he's holding his position, I don't care if he's, bending in a weird way. But that's the thing,
he's like barely holding his position, and he'll get doubled, and like he'll like fall on his face, but he'll bring both of the double guys down with him or something, and like the linebacker is totally free to make.
That's just what he does, man.
That's a win. That's a win in my book.
It is a win, but it's like I wrote down when I was taking my notes on him. Are these it? No, this is who? Mason Smith. Why didn't I write down the names? Oh, whatever. I don't know exactly what I wrote down. Oh, here it is. Here's my Newton notes. Sorry, I'm shuffling papers for people. I wrote fully collapses versus doubles. This is versus Iowa State. I wrote can't anchor and slides backwards, thrown on the ground, but still gets a sack because the guard tried to sit on him and missed. So the guard just fell on his ass, and then Newton popped up and got a sack after initially getting thrown. Back heel buckles, and he gets uprooted versus double. But the thing is, he always is barely hanging on in these situations. He is doing it, but to me, I was just a little bit he's holding it, but barely, I guess, was my thought. And I just was a little bit versus the run, is he as sure to translate, I guess. And the other thing about him is he's more of a blur, and I think he is more athletic. I think Newton is a little bit his range as a tackler and his burst to the quarterback, in the open field, is not near Murphy's. But if Murphy's more athletic, what's the Moneyball line? Why doesn't he get on base more? I just think Newton there's something so simple. But I do like Murphy a lot.
Yeah.
I think he's got the bag.
The bottom line with Murphy is he's the total package of an athlete. He fits the bill to be a prototypical defensive lineman in the NFL, but Newton is just, he's got all the skills, man. And when you watch him, every time we watch Newton, it feels like he passes the 10 play test or the 15 play test or whatever you want to call it, where it's just you can pick any 10 to 15 play sequence and you're probably going to be impressed outside of the first 10 or 15 plays of that one game that we watched. But even towards the end of that game, we were that's probably the worst Johnny Newton game we've seen. And it still ended up being a pretty good game from him.
This being the Nebraska game where he got off to a bit of a slow start.
Yeah. I couldn't remember who it was against.
It was Nebraska. And the other games that we watched were Penn State, which was completely dominant, and Wisconsin, which is completely dominant. And looking at his PFF grades, it's not constantly like that, right? Those are by far his two greatest games of his career, a 94.3 grade, a 91.3 grade. There are no other 90s. So maybe it's an outlier, but he was so dominant in those two games. He gets hands on first every time. He's got bend around the arc like an end does. His technique is perfect. He's taken technique as far as it can go. So I think he's not as crazy of an athlete as Byron Murphy maybe, but he's got the bend, and he's technically very sound. I watched a 2022 game of Newton, and it was against Minnesota, and I was seeing kind of the same things as I was seeing in the Wisconsin versus Penn State game, where it's no one can really get hands on him. He just gets right into their pads instantly. He's kind of that natural bowling ball build where he's kind of got that low to the ground pad level. So he holds up. I think there are his style is just a bit more under control, and maybe his ceiling is lower, but I also think his floor is higher than Murphy's. I don't know. I'm trying to convince you, Matt. You said you were close to putting Murphy ahead of Newton. I'm trying to move you. I'm saying don't. I've got Newton number one. Join me. I don't know if I'm moving.
Yeah. I don't know if I have the guts to go against Newton, who I've loved for so long. And one thing it does make me concerned is the Johnny versus Jerzan. We gotta pick. I mean, this is sort of like a 50-50 here.
He picked Johnny.
He picked Johnny. Okay.
He likes Johnny more than Jerzan. So
okay.
I mean, Jerzan's not that hard to pronounce, so it doesn't.
But yeah. It's been kind of 50-50. It's in a weird spot, Magic Johnson is always Magic Johnson. You never call him anything else. And then a lot of guys have nicknames where maybe you'll hear them, but nobody will ever list them as something else. Like Sauce Gardner, almost always Sauce Gardner on like everything, like on like official ballots, the whole thing. With Newton, it's like really we don't have like a consistent thing we're going back to here. Some places have him as Johnny, some Jerzon, and like the level of seriousness of like the place never seems to have that much of an effect. It's just totally random. So we got to get on the same page about that.
Are you saying the name?
It's
the
Johnny.
Name, he doesn't get the name boost because we're not consistent about it.
I'm not even saying I need like a name boost from him or anything. I guess I've just been questioning, should I call him Jerzon or Johnny? How are we doing that? And if it's Johnny, okay, he can be 1.
But
It
if
is
it's
Johnny.
Jerzon, then he's 2.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
He's a bit in that Latu mold for me. Newton is, where it's not always the sexiest. It's not like the tools are just flying off the film, like in the open field or anything like that. But he just is always winning. He's just constantly winning. So he's one of my favorite defensive players in the draft class. It's
weird with Johnny though. If you look at like his movement in this process along the consensus big board, it is some of the craziest stuff you'll ever see, because a lot of these guys have gone up throughout the process. Murphy's gone up, Fiske has gone up, Jenkins has gone up, Sweat has gone up, but Newton's the only one to go down that I've seen, like pretty substantially, because at one point he was ranked as, and I think he still is ranked as like PFF's 8th overall player in the class. But for a lot of people,
I think PFF is kind of cooking with that. I see him mocked all the time in like the 20s and stuff, and then I'm like,
right.
Yeah,
I've seen him fall out of the
20
teams.
guys in
like,
this draft class.
Over Johnny,
taking 20 guys in this draft class over him. I mean, I just can't get that play out versus Wisconsin out of my head, where he like beat the guard, then cornered, like killed the quarterback, made him fumble, and then recovered his own fumble. I mean, it's probably like the best rep of any player in this draft class. That game against, that play against Wisconsin, and really that game against Wisconsin, like from bottom to top, is just pure masterclass. Like,
yeah.
I mean, every single play he wins. And same thing with Penn State.
I think he might fall, though. It would not shock me at all. I mean, I've gone through and like looked at the mock drafts, I guess, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't know if like a team super high, like a lot of those teams, like I don't think it would be wrong to take them high, but I think they're going to get in the room and it's going to be like, there's some other really good guys versus, you know, a defensive tackle who maybe isn't a crazy athlete, who's a little bit lighter, who's like a pass rush star. And it's like, I don't know. I can definitely see how that might end up in the 20s. And there's really not that many teams who are like, it's obviously, you know, not a position that's like super, super highly coveted. So, I mean, we've even seen some like totally stacked, like perfect defensive tackle prospect type dudes go around like, you know, that 8 to 12 range. And Newton isn't quite that, even though I really like him. So him going considerably lower would not shock me.
Yeah, I mean, Carter fell not all that long ago.
Yeah, but that's because he was in a car crash, right? Like, kind of a bad one, too, where someone died and he fled the scene.
Yeah.
Like, he probably would have gone a lot higher. I don't think Newton is nearly as good of a prospect as Carter. I just think the twitch and, like, of Carter was different. The explosiveness is just different. Like, he is just an absolute beast. Newton just doesn't pop off the screen like that. But just when you watch him, like he's winning just as much as Carter, honestly. Like he just wins, man. He gets in your frame and you can't move him anywhere. Like he just sheds you all the time.
Isn't that crazy? The Latu comp isn't that crazy because both of those guys, you just turn on the tape and you're like, oh, there's a win. Oh, there's a win. Oh, there's like, and even when you're not watching them, you end up gravitating towards them if they're like on the tape at all. So, like when I was watching when we were watching the running backs, I was watching USC for Marshawn Lloyd, and I was watching the game against UCLA, and I'm like, oh, there's Latu, because he just like sticks out.
It's too bad that Murphy didn't get a game versus USC though, because Murphy probably would have also. I guess Newton didn't. What am I talking? The Newton versus Murphy that doesn't have much relevance. But
I don't
anyone
know,
versus
but,
USC would just kill him. But Murphy is good. I just think that there is a little bit of there's just a little bit more. There's more athleticism, but the win rate isn't as high. There's a bit more wasted movement, and I just think like his tape versus doubles confuses me more than like makes me super confident the more that I watched, I guess is where I'm at. But
I guess that's fair. Well, the next player on the consensus big board is Florida State's Braden Fiske. I kind of think
Crazy
he's out of
that he's this
position,
high.
man. I kind of think he's out of position.
Out of position
don't
at
know.
what? Where would you move him to?
Edge.
No fucking way.
Don't, yes, man. I think
Okay,
he's. I don't
Blaiden. Outside of
Yes.
fast, why?
Well, he's not strong enough to hold up inside. Like that's
I mean, he doesn't
I'm
have the
just saying-
length to play edge.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. He has short arms, but as far as like, I think his skill set is more suitable at edge. I see too many plays where he ends up like I think he's got real like a good first step to really get an impact on a guard.
Yeah.
I was watching the first step is insane, and he gets really nice pop, but then he just doesn't have the play strength to sustain that throughout the rep. There's too many plays against LSU where and I know it's LSU's O line, but like those are NFL players. Like you're gonna play against guys like that in the NFL. There's too many plays where he ends up getting effectively blown out of the play just because he doesn't have the strength to hold up. I think if you put him
Because he's a
edge,
shitty
he
defensive tackle in some regards, not because he's a good edge.
but I think he's got a good enough first step and good enough skills with his hands to survive if you put him outside at edge.
but it's not like the length all of a sudden doesn't become a problem. Like part of the reason why he doesn't
It becomes
hold
a
up
bigger
is because his
problem.
arms are so short. Yeah, it becomes a bigger problem. And I said like the speed is cool and the first step is cool, but that's just as much of an advantage on the inside, right? And then I have to question like, is he gonna like bend the corner on tackles? Is that the idea? And it's like I don't think so, like at all. So I just think
I
like
have no idea what he would do out at edge. Maybe you could put him. Go ahead, Ben.
yeah, I agree. I don't really know. Like he does some cool stuff. Like I agree, being that big and running that fast is dope. But like it just has not quite come together to like a great player because the arms are so short and he just doesn't generate that much power.
yeah.
It's really hard for him to get guys and create that force, and like it just doesn't translate. And they want to send him on stunts a lot because he's so fast, and fair enough. But I just don't think that's like part of a complete game, really.
If this entire draft class ran a 5K, I think Fisk would win, like by a full minute. He'd go
He's
as
got
fast
the
as he
effort. His
possibly
motor
could.
is crazy.
His motor is crazy. He'd go off the like he'd come out of his stance at the beginning of the race, the fastest of everybody, and like I don't think he would ever get tired. You could tell him to circle the globe, and he would just go do it. He'd just go run as fast as he could, and he'd never slow down. But I mean, the amount of wasted movement in his game is crazy, and it's like, how did you end up on the other side of the line of scrimmage from where you're supposed to be? I mean, I think double teams in the NFL are just going to absolutely annihilate him. Really, is where it comes down to for me.
I do not think he can survive inside at all.
In a pure pass rushing situation, maybe you could filter him in, and he could do something because he is so athletic and like he's just trying so damn hard that like on third down maybe he could be useful. But to be the like
Third and long.
Yeah, to be the 42nd overall prospect and ahead of guys like Chris Jenkins and other dudes that I like in this draft class.
He wasn't anywhere close to this range. He was getting I think he was getting pitched into like the 60s or something for a while. And then right around draft time, he was ranked 71st, and then he shot up to 50th right around the combine. So
yeah, man, I don't know. That seems so going up to like, all of a sudden this guy is a high second round dude because of the combine. I just completely disagree with it.
And the Senior Bowl, where like you could really see the burst and explosion, and in a one-on-one situation, like no one could really deal with it. So there were some really quick wins there. But in an NFL game, you're going to have help to either side of you, and it's not going to be like a one-on-one pass protection situation every rep. Like there are going to be plays where you and your guard can work together and just kill this guy. And I think he will be. He got killed at FSU.
I think
I
he
just
would be
don't
a
think
fun
that
guy to
he's.
take a shot on. I think it would be a fun guy to take a shot on. You could play around with him, but yeah, at 42, no shot. Like not not a.
I
Yeah, he's a
actually
day
think
3
like
flyer, I think.
even then, it's like, how can you get him in the game?
Third
That
down.
would. It's like, yeah, it's like, you know, it's just it's going to be so limited, man. That I wouldn't even be that focused on it.
I don't know if
So
we'll get to it, but if you want a third down guy, like Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State has like
Hey.
better pass rush chops than Fiske does, you know. Like
yeah,
there's a couple guys. I don't know if we'll get all the way down to Hall in this episode, which is why I bring him up now, but
Yeah.
Hall is great, man, and he does
might.
a really good job like setting dudes up, and he moves laterally so quickly. He like teleports. Sometimes it feels
Yeah.
like I'm a big fan of Hall. I agree. And as far as like run defenders go, I don't think he's quite as bad as Fisk either. So
No.
it's
Yeah.
it's a
Fisk-
take. I agree.
I would be I'm willing to be a fan of Braden Fiske, but yeah, that's about as far as I'll go.
I don't think you can't be a fan because there are people who think
it
he
would
should be a
fun.
first rounder. Like I see his name occasionally sneaking. Like if those are the fans, like I just cannot get on board.
Yeah,
at all.
yeah,
Like,
I don't.
He's just not.
He wouldn't be.
He's just this ball of.
I say he should move to edge, but then I also wouldn't put him as like a top 5 edge in this class. So like,
I mean, you shouldn't
like
put him as an
anywhere
edge.
close.
You give up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now to give up on that dream.
Give up on the narrative. Give up on the narrative.
Yeah, he can't. He's not an edge. He's a defense. He's an undersized defensive tackle.
Defensive. That can't win inside. It can't deal with double teams, but he just tries.
He tries. He does his
tries.
and it works sometimes because he is very athletic. Obviously,
He has
had a great
he has
combine
some
for a
moments.
reason.
He has his moments, but I can't help just watching a statement. I'm being like, dog, just.
I wouldn't be interested in taking him where he's being drafted. But the next guy I do like.
The next guy. Well, we can't like this guy. He went to Michigan.
I can.
So he's terrible. He should be the last pick in the draft. Undrafted. Shouldn't even be an undrafted free agent. Doesn't deserve that much. Out of the league already. Now, Chris Jenkins. Theo, you're a big fan, it sounds like.
I guess I am a big fan. Sort of. I'm a big fan of him in the second round. I think he could maybe even sneak into the last couple picks of the first. Like if there's any like random name that could.
I mean, outside of
Jenkins
Newton and Murphy, I would say that most of these guys probably aren't.
I think that the league will be higher on Jenkins than Fiske when it's all said and done, is what I'll say.
Okay.
And what I like about Jenkins is he's got long arms. He's got 34-inch arms, which is pretty good. He ran fast at the combine, had a good broad jump, didn't have a great shuttle. But when I watch him, I think his run defense tape is pretty fantastic. His game against Ohio State, he had a block where the center tried to down block him, and then the guard in front of him pulled. And he got hands on that center so fast and just ran right over him on his way to the ball carrier. That was a pretty sweet moment from him. Where are my other notes?
I mean, I agree entirely. I think he's a phenomenal run defender. I'd be way more interested in him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He had a great just his Ohio State game in general is great. Like his pad level.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
He chased down wide zone from the backside, like didn't get reached and ran it down. He just annihilated Cade Stover at one point and tackled a cutback. He seems to be a pretty good finisher of tackles. He he pulled himself through a reach block, so they were running wide zone again, and
Yeah.
these offensive linemen are getting out and trying to seal him off and make him fall behind the play, but he just kind of like pulled himself in front of the lineman and made a tackle out on the perimeter. In the national championship game, he made several high impact plays in the run game. It's just like, will he ever figure it out as a pass rusher? He doesn't have a lot of power in his hands to me. Doesn't have a lot of counter moves. Like if like once he gets tied up, I worry about his overall like ferociousness in that area. But I think you can put him on the field pretty easily and have him be a good run defender. And whatever happens with him as a pass rusher. He hits this spin move all the time that is sometimes good and sometimes not. He likes to do it.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like much of a power rusher, but I think that maybe he would figure it out. And you could get him on the field early because they're on defense.
If we're talking about a project guy, not that he is a project guy because he's already a really strong run defender, and really that's like most of the battle. But I would rather take him and then try to work on the pass rushing with a guy who's got long arms and some pop off the ball, rather than take somebody who has short arms and is undersized, but is like maybe really fast. Like that's like the type of growth that I would try to see. And then even if I miss, I feel like with Chris Jenkins, it's like, okay, well, at least I got a guy who's going to be able to get in the game, and I feel like it's going to be pretty solid pros. Yeah, so that I agree. I have Jenkins very high.
Yeah, I think with Michigan defensive tackles who are like sneaking into the end of the first round, it might take a while because of the Mozzie Smith disaster class rookie season. Now all of a sudden it's like there's another good run defender out of Michigan who is like the third or fourth best tackle in the class, and maybe he could sneak in at the end of the first round. Like people will be like, I've seen this before. Like that archetype doesn't work out of Michigan. I don't know. I think he'll be better than Mozzie Smith. I think
we can't be helmet scouting.
I don't think that he's going to come in and have it be like a horrific disaster in run defense right off the bat. Like he's not laid off the snap all the time, which will help him. He's got the length. I like him. Yeah. I think first round would probably be like, what's the upside here? But he's safe. Second round, you start to get into some really good value for him. I think that he'll be one of the first 10 picks off the board in that round. And
yeah, I mean, if you already have a good like edge rushing group or a good set of pass rushers, then yeah, this would be a phenomenal addition just to like secure up the run defending a little bit. So I wouldn't hate it at all. Next up would be another Texas player, T'Vondre Sweat, another guy we talked about during the Bengal episode. Is that a positive or a negative? Yeah,
it's Theo? A negative. Yeah,
I 100% agree. I think I've really
he's anti-Fisk. He's the anti-Fisk, but it's the same.
I don't think like you have to really explain all that hard like what Sweat is as a player to people. Like I think. Most dudes, like, it's like we got a pretty good idea, right? The problem is, like, if the conditioning stuff is a problem, if it's not getting better, and keep in mind, I think being like a 330-pound defensive tackle or 340-pound defensive tackle, probably like one of the toughest conditioning jobs, not just in football, but in all of sports. It's an unbelievable amount of work. But if you're having like a weight problem, even if you like Sweat as a run defender, which you should, he's a beast. He's just not going to be on the field. He's just not going to be able to just stay on the field. And I think he's worth taking a shot on for sure. I don't have him like off my board or anything because of it, but like it makes me very, very, very nervous, honestly.
Yeah. And it's not like a DeJuan Jones situation, because DeJuan Jones was getting like first round hype and then fell because of like various concerns. That's
what's going to happen to Sweat.
Well, Sweat wasn't getting first round hype before.
Yeah, he
was he?
I saw him get some hype. I mean, he was getting more highly regarded
months ago.
In December, his consensus rank was 52. It's dropped to 60 since then.
I know that I've seen him in first
30. His peak was 32nd. So I guess that would be first round. When it comes to your feet, eBay's got your back because with eBay's authenticity guarantee, real experts are checking your sneakers, every stitch down to the sole. Me personally, I'm a big fan of a classic Air Force or maybe a nice suede or leather boot, but whatever it is that you're adding to the lineup next, head to eBay. From the drop to your doorstep, eBay does not play with your sneaker game. Just look for that blue check mark. So ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms.
He's a good run defender in like certain situations, but also like what if they run out to the perimeter, right? Like he didn't test anything like Jordan Davis. And Jordan Davis has been disappointing. Like this guy's not nearly that caliber of prospect or athlete, and he has all of the same problems. He's heavier. he was at the Senior Bowl and he didn't weigh in, and then he came in at the combine and was like 366 pounds. So it's like, what was he at the Senior Bowl like when he didn't weigh in, right? Like he got a DUI a couple days ago. Like he's described as this like class clown party animal. I've seen Byron Murphy like force the quarterback Sweat's direction, and Sweat offers just nothing in pursuit. Like he's not gonna, even if he does win somehow in the pass rush game, which like he doesn't have a crazy amount of move, like he's not that good of a pass rusher. But even if he does like beat the guy in front of him, obviously pressure is great, but with him, like he's very easy to evade. So I just don't really know what he would do. Honest, like he'd play nose and he'd eat up doubles, but when he's on the field, like they probably wouldn't run towards him, you know, like they'd probably call a different run in their playbook and run somewhere else. I guess is good that he could.
Yeah, that matters. It totally matters.
It does. But he would be giving you could exploit him is I guess what I'm saying. Like you don't have to run right at him, but if you had Byron Murphy out there and you run away from him, there's a chance Byron Murphy like goes and tracks it down, right? Like he runs himself into the play somehow. I don't know. Like Sweat would be a positive on some runs, but he would be a negative basically on any other play, I think. So I wouldn't be very interested in taking him. I think you
got to pay attention to the type of guy who is just that hard to move. I think it does change what type of plays you call, and there's value in that.
It does.
I just think that with him being on the field, or the potential that he might not be on the field that much, and then like you said with the pursuit stuff, the floor is actually like way lower than you would think for a solid run defending defensive tackle or a nose tackle or whatever.
Yeah,
like you've been talking about with some of these other guys. That's my take on him. But if we got to day 3, honestly, dude, I'd pretty quickly start to be like, yeah, I want to take a shot on Sweat. I think.
Yeah, I could see it. I think I'd probably put him maybe like 4th round. There are even flyers that I probably like more than him, but like 5th, 6th, 7th is probably where we're looking at Sweat for me. I don't know. He's just big. He's just big, and I don't think that he deserves to be up as high as he does.
The most common mock projection is to Kansas City at the end of the 2nd.
Maurice Jones-Drew mocked him to the Packers in the 1st round 10 days ago. How
do you feel about that, Theo?
I would not be happy if they took Sweat in the 1st round.
So
they would get nothing out of him. They won't take Sweat in the first. No one is going to take Sweat in the 1st round. That I solemnly promise that won't happen.
All right, fair enough. Well, next up on our board, or on the big board, not on our board, is Maason. Is it Maason or Maason? Maason Smith?
I think it's Maason with 2 A's.
I think it's Maason, but I'm gonna say that cautiously. Out of LSU, didn't get an immediate gut negative reaction, so I feel like this is a good start.
Well, I thought it was funny watching him and Wingo because Smith is like 6'5" with like really long arms. And
He's
and
insanely
Wingo
huge.
is like 6 feet tall with really short arms, and like you kind of get this Jake and Elwood Blues dynamic in the middle of the LSU defensive line, where like one is tall and skinny and the other is like short and portly. It's like good character design in the middle of that defensive line.
We got SpongeBob and Patrick out here.
We
Tom
do.
and Jerry.
We do. It's like a cartoon duo. Smith, I mean, the first play I saw of him, he like wrecked shop. He shows up just hulking on the defensive line at 6'5", right? And then he stacks his guard and just like throws him out of the way and tackles the dude. Like first play I watched, I'm like, is this Chris Jones? Like, what is this guy's issue? He's huge. Like he just dominated the first. But then over the course of the game, I realized his pad level is like absurdly high. So he doesn't really have much. It's crazy. I mean, he stands like straight up. And he's like all 6'5" of him.
Very easy to spot him. It's like, just in case the arrow doesn't pop up in the cut up, you know where he is.
Yeah. And he just doesn't have that much power, or like he needs to work on his moves. Like he doesn't really have. He's got a little bit of effort in his hands. He's not like a pure just engage and run forward type of guy. He's got an arm over that he likes to do, and he's so tall that some of these shorter guards could struggle with it. He might just like pass right over them. But if he does like engage with your chest and then like wants to get out of it, I question like his methods and his overall power, because his pad level is so high is bad. And I don't know. I didn't think he was that great, but
yeah. But Theo, you're typically a fan of rare body types. 6'6", 315. Yeah. I don't know, man. This kind of fits your profile.
Him being 6'6" does not mean that much to me, man. Like honestly, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be 6'6", but it is for him. Mm-hmm. It is if you play super, super high. And I think to some extent, maybe this is totally off base. You either kind of have it in you to get that low and it feels natural and you can do your thing, or you don't, at least at this point. So I'd be pretty worried about that. And again, it's like, if he's not like a super strong guy, him being like big and sort of lanky doesn't move me as much. So I don't know. I wasn't the highest on him. I'm not saying he's like a,
I could see him
getting him.
I could see him going up against like a bad guard and being really good like a couple games out of the season. Guys who just can't quite deal with his length, and he could get hands on him first, and they just can't really reach him, and they don't have answers. So maybe like 1 or 2 matchups a year, if he's facing like a backup who just isn't quite equipped to deal with his size, he could get a couple sacks. But against someone who knows how to deal with that kind of thing, like he just didn't seem to have many answers. But the guy next to him, the short guy in their duo, Mekhi Wingo, is way more intriguing to me. I don't know if he stood out to you guys when you watched when you're going down the list, but he's about as athletic of a defensive tackle that I've seen. I feel like he's another one of those short. He's one of those short arm guys. But what were you saying, Matt?
Oh, I say he definitely pops out with the athleticism and the quickness. I think that he gets moved pretty easily sometimes. I didn't think it was like he's small and really quick, and that's great. But I would have liked to see the power kind of be special for a guy's size before I'm like, oh my god, he's like some insane athlete. Like even though he's this size, he's doing this. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, he's definitely reliant on the twitchiness, and it's absurd twitchiness. And I think he plays a lot more under control than Fiske does. But it is kind of the similar thing, right? Like he blows up the combine, he runs around like he's a skill position player playing defensive tackle, but he's short with the short arms. But I don't know. I just think that he was so explosive. He would just... And I think he was creative taking on doubles at times. Like he was able to get in the pads of the first guy so quick and just kind of contort himself and slip through him. And in the games I watched of him, he spent a lot of time at like 1 tech, like versus Mizzou. Maason Smith was the 3 technique, and that's a little bit of an easier run blocking assignment than being the nose. And Mekhi Wingo was like the 6 foot tall, like horrendously undersized nose, and he popped way more to me in that game. Like I thought he was completely dominant in that game, and Smith was getting easier assignments and wasn't doing what the other guy was doing, Wingo. So Wingo, look, if one of these guys you take on day 2 and he ends up being Aaron Donald, like the 6 foot just the 6 foot most athletic guy on the field who also just has it all figured out technically, like it's Wingo. Like Wingo is most in that mold to me, but he's not going to be Aaron Donald, obviously, but he kind of had those flashes to me where I'm like, he's 6 feet tall and it just doesn't matter. Like I like that he has kind of that.
Sounding a
He's
little
not
fisky.
I don't think
Fiske
you can
never
like
dominated
Wingo.
like this.
I don't think you can like Wingo and not
Watch
like
me.
Fiske.
That's like saying, oh, I can
I'm-
absolutely do that. You can, just because they're both short with short arms.
They're
doesn't
the
mean you're
exact same
player.
problems.
Wingo.
Yeah, but one is
Wingo.
like one wins more. Like one
Fiske is
shows up
stiffer,
more
I
with one
think.
guy.
I think that's really the difference. Fiske is like very fast and he's like gets off the ball quick, but I feel like he doesn't bend and move like Wingo does. I think it makes Wingo a lot more functional. Now, this is to say that he went and weighed at the combine at 284, which is just too damn light for somebody with shorter arms too. I just don't think that works, most likely. But then again, I'm also maybe willing to accept that he did that for the sake of running a fast 40 time, because that's the thing to do. And I guess I don't really care about him running a fast 40 because we know on tape, it shows up the speed and the quickness. So I get liking Wingo. He's also not as hyped as Fiske, and that's part of it. So I think some of the talk is like kind of relative to expectations.
Okay.
So it's like Fiske is like, this guy maybe should be a first rounder, whereas Wingo, it's like, projected like day 3 guy,
No one
right?
talks about him.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
would be okay with either on day 3, but yeah.
But he is a little Fisky. There's there's a little bit of,
I mean, there are the particles, but I think like getting off the ball and like getting hands on someone and actually knocking them backwards, like I see it way more with Wingo than Fiske. Like I just think that he packs way more of a punch. He's not trying to like run around people constantly or just like doing who knows what the hell Fiske is doing out there half the time. But
he's just trying his hardest, having
Wingo
fun.
looks more normal to like, I'm like, okay, this is like a normal defensive tackle. It honestly surprised me to see that he was as small as he was, whereas with Fiske, it's like obvious, I think, on film. So I liked Wingo actually a heck of a lot. He's definitely one of my guys in this class, even though he's small. I thought he was so twitchy and elastic, and PFF doesn't like him, and he's been banged up. But I think if you get him out of LSU and maybe move him out of that nose tackle position that he plays so much, like I think that he could get him in a different stance. Maybe I heard Ollie Connolly talk about that on the wonderful Read Optional podcast, where he was talking about, I don't even remember what he was talking about, man. He was talking about like stance and shit. I don't know enough about stance to know if he was in like the ideal stance to move efficiently off the ball, but I saw a lot of tools. I saw a lot of tools with Mekhi Wingo, and I think I think he could be more productive in the NFL than he was at LSU.
Fair enough.
You think he needs to change position slightly? And
I mean, not to edge, man. I mean, I'm talking like shade him like slightly more to a different, like outside. Don't move him out to be the end man on the line of scrimmage, like trying to bend the edge by any. Don't do that. But move him out of that. Like he just doesn't need to be playing nose tackle probably, and like eating doubles all the time.
Yeah. Weight at the combine at 284 probably shouldn't be a nose tackle. I agree.
No.
Probably shouldn't. Well, Theo, we did make it to the Ohio State guy. Michael Hall Jr. is the next guy up, who you do seem to be interested in to some degree.
Yeah, he's pretty nice. I saw him versus like Alt, obviously, watching that Notre Dame versus Ohio State game, and like he was the only guy I think I ever saw push pull Alt, which is weird because Alt leans so far over his pads that I thought I was going to see push pulls all over his tape, and it didn't really work. But with Hall, like I actually saw him even get by Alt, who is, I think, the class of this entire draft, right? So
Right.
he was able to win against Alt as a pass rusher because he has like all these moves. He's like super ferocious. And yeah, I think in terms of like pure pass rushing bag, Hall is about as good as it gets in this class. So that's what I like about him. Obviously, as a run defender, it may not fully come together for him. He's not super great with it. His pad level also like a little questionable. Not the heaviest of heavy defensive linemen. How big is he exactly?
Probably right around 300, I would guess. Maybe he weighed
He
a little light
got
at the combine for
he was
40 time.
290 at the combine, so not freaky big, but
Starting to get pretty darn small, honestly. Yeah.
it is. But this is a small
phony
draft
combine
class, right?
numbers,
Like
yeah.
who do we?
Right.
And it's a small draft class, right? We're comparing him to guys in this class. Like Hall isn't that much. He's bigger than Fiske. He's bigger than Wingo. Like Byron Murphy isn't that big.
Yeah.
Neither is even Newton, who I like a lot. Like he's not this physical beast. Like his length isn't impressive really. So yeah, as far as all these guys go, it's like, yeah, at the very least, kind of like Fiske, you could put Hall in there on third downs and you could get after it, I think. And I think he's even a better pass rusher than Fiske is. So that's another guy.
Yeah, I think both with Hall and Wingo, I'm not saying they're necessarily the same player, but the reason why I think we like those guys as a shot more than Fiske is the lateral movement, at least for me, and the ability to bend. And Hall's is like pretty shocking on some plays how much he's able to move over and just totally stun guards with that. So I mean, I'm biased. I liked him pretty good. I thought he was pretty solid.
Do you like him more than Chris Jenkins? Chris Jenkins, take one.
Well, I mean, if I had to take one, I would take Hall because he's a good guy. But
he's the good guy.
Yeah, but I mean, I do like Chris Jenkins more, if I'm being honest. Unfortunately,
yeah.
Hall is also very young though, and Chris Jenkins is very old though. I think isn't Chris Jenkins like 23? He was a fifth-year guy. If I'm right, let me know.
Jenkins
if not, just don't say nothing. All right, sweet.
Well, Chris Jenkins is the son of a Panthers legend, right?
That's true. So he gets a pass. I think I also saw.
His uncle is Packers legend Cullen Jenkins.
Oh man, he might.
I don't know
be
if you guys
stamped.
remember Cullen Jenkins.
He might be stamped. I don't know.
I'm thinking about forgiving him.
I'm
so
not
Jenkins
seeing his
is
age,
22 and a half, it looks like, but
it passes the
not quite
test.
Yeah.
It's not really too much to be concerned about.
But Hall is like still 20, I think. He's super young.
He won't be 21 until after the draft, so he won't be able to have a drink on draft night, I fear.
That's crazy.
That's pretty good.
That's
nuts.
He's
got a good pass rushing bag for someone that young. He could really be a productive pass rusher. So I like him.
And where is he projected right now? Like what number did they have him on that consensus big board?
Overall, he's at 69.
69, really? I feel like that's pretty high. Okay, sweet. Yeah. I think he's worthy of a day 3 pick potentially. I think he's a solid player. He's
getting mocked to the Browns.
He would cook in that.
He would
cook in that system. I mean, he's the kind of guy, just pass rush specialist. We'll stop the run on the way to the quarterback, Jim Schwartz. Like this guy can get to the quarterback and
the run on the way to the quarterback.
And that's a far from him, isn't it? It's
did Jim Schwartz actually say that?
I think that was him. Yeah.
Oh, that's
how he plays.
Bar.
It is a bar. He can get to the quarterback, man. He's quite the pass rusher.
That is actually such a bar.
Yeah, I would love him on the Browns. I think he would cook in Cleveland or any other like.
I would be okay
defense with that mentality.
I would be okay with Jenkins in Cleveland too. I think both of those guys would do well because the Browns have small linebackers. Get a guy that can stop the run, so that our linebackers don't have to do all the work. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be mad at either of those guys.
Yeah, I wonder how much you could use Jenkins in the Schwartz scheme. I think there are better fits, but
In Schwartz's scheme, yeah, it might be tricky, but I think he's a good player, and I think it would be
yeah. I got one more guy I kind of
good
want to
player
talk
fit.
about. I don't know if you guys have watched anybody else on this list. The first one is really the only one actually is Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa. I thought that he
Didn't
was kind
see
of
him.
intriguing. Yeah, he's kind of way down there, but I
I
liked
know
his film.
PFF likes him a
Do they?
decent amount. I think, or no, I lied. They had him at like 145. I thought they liked him more than that.
I would take him a little bit before that. He's really quite slow. Like he's not really gonna, he might beat the guy in front of him, but is he gonna actually like track down the quarterback? I don't know, because he's like 330 pounds or something like that. Like this dude is an absolute angry tree stump, right? He's got the girth that you're looking for in this draft class. Like he's absolutely stacked. And even though he's slow, he gets hands on fast and he plays with the natural leverage and he's just big. And when you got that combination, it's kind of difficult. And I think he recognizes plays really quickly. Like there are times where I'm like, how did you know that you were going to get blocked from there? Like he'll be head up over the guard and it'll be he's up against McCormick, who's a draft prospect at South Dakota State in the game that I watched. And I thought him and McCormick had a good battle, and he looked like I thought he honestly got the better of McCormick over the course of the game. But sometimes, like the center would come hit him out of nowhere, and he'd just get his eyes right there and take him on like he knew what was happening the entire time. And that's what really intrigued me about him was he seemed really technically sound and he seemed really smart and he had the size. So as like a rotational nose, I think he could definitely like impress some coaches and like get into a rotation. And then I thought he had, I like his ceiling isn't crazy high, but he was like, I'm like, I think this guy could play for you. Like some of these dudes you watch and you're just like, they can't really play at all. And I thought he could play. So he was
some
someone that I
guys just aren't
liked.
good at football. Some guys
Some
just
guys aren't, man. Some guys aren't. I watch these linebackers. Like I watched Jeremiah Trotter, and I was like, this guy just can't play. Like he's not going to be.
I feel like it's been a while since we've had like a good linebacker class, right?
It has. I mean, that's just an example of a guy who's getting hyped, and I watch him, and I'm like, I don't see him. Like, I just wouldn't be interested in drafting him. Like, he just doesn't look fast. He's tiny. Like, he's not that good at tackling. Like, what is he? Like, I don't want to be mean, but like, what? How is he supposed to see the field? Like, that. When you get down to in the hundreds, like a lot of guys are like that. It's like the NBA. People don't care about the NBA outside of the lottery. It's the same thing in the NFL draft. Once you get outside the top 50, it's like we can kind of project that these guys can't play and we'll never see a rotation. Like a lot of them look like that, man. And
Honestly,
he didn't,
dude, I feel like the bar is so high for like the tools you need for the NBA. I think it's higher than the NFL, maybe. I don't know if I'm thinking about that wrong. Where it's like I kind of feel the opposite in the draft where there's guys who are like good or like there's really like skilled and talented players where it's like this guy can play. It's just not going to work in the NBA. That's how I feel sometimes. But I do agree, like the Hornets rotation players this year after injuries and trades. Yeah, man, there's some guys like this isn't going to work. This isn't going to end up going the way we want to. And the guys who are it's like this guy can't play, it's the dudes who are taken more for their tools than anything in the NBA. And there's so many of them because it's like those are mostly the dudes worth taking a shot on. I also agree with you about the linebackers class, Blaiden. Like, when is the last time that we had like a really strong linebacker class?
I don't know, man.
Like, it'll happen someday.
It's been.
I think the problem there's so many teams that like go after like hybrid guys now. I feel like. And like that's probably more of the meta to get like a safety that can come into the box and play, and then you go like 2 linebackers, and then you have like 3 safeties on the field, like a lot of big nickel packages.
Well, I think about where the college game is at, and I just find it so tough to project these linebackers because they're just not covering in NFL concepts. Like I watched Edgerrin Cooper, and he just doesn't know how to cover. Like the guy isn't asked to cover. Like it's so much more run heavy in college, and there's so many more RPOs that you're just not getting the full drop backs, like guys scanning the field type thing. You don't really get linebackers, carrying deep concepts like from the slot, like down the pipe. You just don't see it a whole lot, like these advanced concepts. And these linebackers don't have to cover that much space. So I look at like Edgerrin Cooper, for example, and I think he's really, really good against the run from what I saw. But he's playing in like these 3-3 front, like stunting, getting
what year is
like
this?
spying. Well, in college, it's the big year of 2024. They all are in these fronts, man. Like they're all in that like 3-3 type of thing. Even the Will McDonald, who was like a 240 or 30 pound edge last year, was constantly in that 3-3, like 4-eye technique constantly.
Yeah.
Like never got to be out on the edge rushing the passer. So they're in these fronts that they won't be in the NFL. They're like not defending concepts that they'll see in the NFL. So like they're spying, like with Cooper again, I'm using him as an example. Like he's constantly spying Milrow or Daniels or something like that. Peyton Wilson also, like he rushed the passer on a third of his on a third of opposing dropbacks. Like he was rushing the passer, and then in coverage he's like spying or just like dropping a minuscule amount and with eyes on the quarterback. It's like maybe he's good in coverage, like he's really, really fast, but I don't know how he'll be in coverage in the NFL. Like I have no idea. He's like almost like a stand-up outside linebacker rushing the passer damn near half the time. Like
that's why you would probably rather just take a safety that can play in the box, because he can cover, and then if he can also come down and play the run a little bit, you're like, okay.
I mean, I might as well. Like these guys are light. These guys are like 230 pounds, and I don't know how they project in coverage. So it's like I might as well move a safety to linebacker, because these guys are going through like the same kind of position switch damn near. Like it's just as non-transferable. So that was what frustrated me about the linebacker class. I liked Cedric Gray. And now I'm just on a linebacker tangent, but he was linebacker kind of like episode. in a normal scheme, I felt like, and like was pretty technically sound. But he was like small, and I only had one game of film on him, so maybe I like him.
Fair.
Colson also at Michigan was like somewhat normal, but he just didn't pop a crazy amount to me. But whatever.
Before we get out, Theo, did the Suns win?
Oh, when my laptop shut off, the broadcast went down. It seemed like they had it pretty well in hand. Okay, it's a final, 125-106, which means the Suns are the 6th seed. We're playing the Wolves first round. No playing.
How are the Cavs doing?
They got the 4th seed, but they will be first rounded by the Magic. In my
stop.
We may maybe do an NBA episode next.
I'd like to.
All these playoffs.
That'd be fun.
I'd like to too.
I'll tell you. I don't know who's guarding Ant.
I don't know. Who guarded him today? Booker. It'll be a team effort, and
wait, Matt.
Deal will go 6 for 6 from 3, and
a 7 game, and that's well. The Cavs Hornets thing was so stupid. He did play today, and he did have 13 points. I'm sorry, I don't know ball, and I didn't watch this game. They're going to win this in 4 apparently. The Cavs Hornets thing was stupid though. The Cavs intentionally lost that game to avoid the 76ers and Heat.
Wait, what?
They had a chance at the 2 seed and they didn't want it because the 2 seed had the potential to either play the Heat or the 76ers, who you really want to avoid because they're only that low because Embiid's been hurt all year. So there's risk that you do that. So they pulled like all of their starters. I mean, they played Amani Bates 30 minutes. Except the Hornets also played like nobody because they didn't want to hurt their draft, like their lottery odds. Right. So and I couldn't watch it because it was blacked out on League Pass. So I mean, they're hiding that from me, I guess.
Here's what I'll say: the Cavs will pay dearly for that lack of dog. And
I made a video where it's like it's logically it's right. but morally it's wrong. I think it sets you up too much to be like,
Wait, but
you get the
the
other
Sixers
team.
are in the play-in.
It's like, yeah, this you. I don't understand it. I don't. I mean,
They sat their starters to avoid a play-in team.
But the
wouldn't
76ers are only in the plan because Embiid has been hurt.
Okay, I haven't been. I need to catch
But wouldn't
up.
seeding help you like in home court? And wouldn't that like to be the best? You gotta eventually you gotta beat the Sixers, whether it be in round 2 or round 1, or you gotta beat a team of their caliber. Like you gotta beat a good team.
Yes. Now they almost certainly would have to go up against the Celtics in round 2 on the road.
So
It's
I don't understand.
So they basically said, we want to win one series and then we'll say.
And it's against the Magic, and it's like the Magic are not that easy to beat. Like
it's gonna be a street fight, and you've already given them big time bulletin board material, and now you've put yourself in a position where it's hugely embarrassing if you try to match up with a team, lose on purpose.
All this to avoid playoff Embiid coming off a major injury.
Playoff Embiid.
That's terrible. He's going to be dog shit. He's going to be terrible.
The Cavs fucked up on this one, I fear.
Knicks in 4. Heat, honestly, they just ducked the Heat for no reason. From what I can tell.
The Embiid health stuff definitely is like, there is a real chance you did that, and then Orlando's defense really closes in on a Cavs team that doesn't always space the best, and it looks kind of like last year, except the Cavs have more shooting, probably won't, could be a little bit better. And that Orlando team has like a very wonky offense, with they have, kind of similar problems. But then you maybe like if you lose to Orlando and then Embiid went down anyway or something in the first round, which is totally possible. I mean, he's already nursing the knee injury. Then you could look like really, really like stupid for that. But I do get it because Embiid has been playing phenomenal this year, and I kind of think that things are different if he's healthy. Like I think he would play pretty good. I really like what Philadelphia's been doing with him on the floor, and he was going to win MVP. I think no doubt. So
he's still good. He was that good when he was in, and like people would probably still vote for him in like some third place or fourth if they could, because he didn't hit the game's threshold or whatever. But they were so bad with him out, and he was so good when he was in. It's like he probably would still get some votes. He would probably still get some votes for MVP. Like he was that ridiculous this year. So.
God bless the game's threshold, man.
Oh, I disagree entirely. I don't think he would get any votes.
I'm fucking with you.
I think he would get a vote.
Nah, I don't think so. He played like 40 games. It's too few.
Someone would do it.
This is I think this is pro hard cutoff propaganda. Yeah, they'd probably give votes to somebody with 40. I didn't even think he got the 40.
I'm not trying to do pro voting for
You're trying to no.
This is Embiid propaganda. Like he was so good, and then the team was so ass when he was out, and like the race at the top is like kind of hard to vote for. Like someone would be like, "Well, I still think Embiid deserves a little recognition."
Okay. Someone like trying to be fake woke and different. Yeah, honestly.
Yes.
Like yes.
I see Embiid's season. I see Embiid's season on Twitter will be pushing this narrative.
Somebody actually not even like one dude. A few guys really like voted for Jordan Travis for Heisman because he got hurt, and then the Florida State, the committee snubbed him, so that must mean that he's the Heisman. Like we got that logic. Granted, there's like 700 Heisman voters. So
that's the funniest. Honestly, that
give me a Heisman.
I love that, dude. I love there being 700 Heisman voters. Like, all right.
How does Stay Hot get Heisman votes here? That's the real.
You have to be like a straight like journalist reporter type guy.
Okay.
And we're not quite that, I don't think. And we also
we need to be credentialed,
so it'd be tough. Yeah, it'd be difficult.
We would need to be college football journalists, and we're not. So
it'd be funny.
But shout out Gigi Jackson for dropping 44 today. I can't believe how good he's been as a rookie. but I just saw he had that. I think he's among the youngest people to ever have a game like that or something. I don't know. I glanced at my phone. I thought that was dope. I got him off
2004.
my Dynasty League. I'm so hype.
He's a 2004 baby.
Yeah.
He is
Okay.
younger than Bronny.
Is he
Wow.
really?
Yeah, Bronny was October 2004, and Gigi Jackson is December. So
that is true. He's going to be
very young.
19 when next season starts. He really is incredibly young. I knew
Yeah.
he was 18 for a while. I didn't know. Yeah, that's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah,
People
He's
talk about
almost
him.
as-
They say like he
almost as young as Jason Tatum.
almost.
Almost. Almost.
But that's all I've got. I just thought it was
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh, by the way, do you think I should join this rap beef? It's getting a little. I think it's getting time that I join the waters.
What, the Kendrick J. Cole?
I think so. I don't like the way they've been talking.
responded. I agree. I think
Let me drop a beat for you real quick, man. Let's.
I'd like to see him.
I'm not a rapper. I feel like I could do it though. You know, I've been in so many TikTok beefs. Like, how different could this really be?
I think the.
What would you say? Who would you go after?
Probably Drake.
Probably Drake.
Probably
Okay.
Drake.
Respectable.
What would you say about Drake?
I don't know. Rick Ross kind of covered a lot of it today, so maybe it's not necessary.
Can't get in the rap beef and then be like, honestly, Rick Ross kind of.
It wouldn't flow off the tongue for me as well as it did for Rick
You heard
Ross.
what Rick
I don't think
Ross
I could
said?
call Drake
Yeah,
a
I
white
agree.
boy. I agree
Drake,
with
you a white boy. You
I
look
agree
just like
with
me.
Rick Ross.
I agree
You
with
couldn't even diagnose crack toss.
What?
Get Carson to help you with that.
Carson would do it. Carson would go all in.
Maybe that's a play. Maybe you bring Maybe you start beefing with Carson because you know you could get a rap response out of him.
Could we
Well,
manufacture?
Carson would cook me in a rap. I feel like he's got.
Could we manufacture some like
parody rap
NFL
pen,
TikTok?
But not Drake.
Manufacture some NFL TikTok rap beef real quick.
I still think of the Wee
Hoop.
Hoopin. We kind of missed Wee Hoopin's prime for this, but a Wee Hoopin diss track like a couple years ago would have been awesome.
I'm always a little sad we never did the bit where it was like we debunk everything that Wee Hoopin says. We talked about that one time where we're always like we're taking it like very seriously, everything that Wee Hoopin says and does, and debunk him, and we like stitch his videos and be like, factually, he was wrong here, and here's how he's lying. And
Actually,
that would've
I'm
been
trying
a
to think
really
of
good
who I could go at. I think TikTok is kind of. I already got fantasy football AZ. That's all done.
yeah.
I haven't heard a peep from Rico Knows all draft season.
I thought he
so I'm
blocked
assuming
you.
he's
I thought he
washed.
blocked you.
He blocked me.
What was that?
I thought he blocked
Which
you guys.
he blocked me at least. I don't know if he blocked you,
Yeah.
Theo. Shout out to him.
I don't know. I don't think that he did. Or I think he did and then unblocked me so he could like comment something, and then I've been unblocked
Oh.
since. But like I haven't even been tagged in any like egregious player rankings or anything like that. So I have to assume that he fell off. And there's no one else that I really have beef with. So I'd have to like manufacture something.
I think that'd be funnier.
I don't really have beef with anybody.
I already suggested that. I already said Carson, and you said no. You're running from it, so I don't really know.
I would run from. I don't think I
Wow.
could beef with Carson. I think Carson would commit more to the rap, and I think that he could beat me.
You hear that, Carson?
battle.
Theo's scared of you. That's crazy.
I am. I'm scared of a rap battle with Carson from Nerd Sesh. Maybe I could come up with something, but
Freestyle
He would just
off the dome.
I've heard him rap before. It was.
He's posted
It
videos
was
of it before.
certainly something. It was certainly something.
Okay. If he can rap, then that's it. Then he wins.
I don't know if I would say he can rap, but he does.
Oh,
Carson.
Carson, how will you respond?
He's saying.
if
He just said your bars are weak.
would he receive high marks from Pitchfork if you dropped a rap album? I don't know. But neither would I, is the thing. I would receive terrible. He's better than me.
How would Fantano review both of your guys's
bad?
rap
I think
skills?
Logan might have the most of the Nerd Sesh and Stay Hot people. I think Logan could cook up something, and actually be the best rapper of the five of us.
I can't rap at all, so don't even look at me.
I wasn't, man.
Good.
I'm not looking at either of you for rap prowess or myself. Nerd Sesh in general, Logan and Carson would cook all three of us in any kind of rap battle scenario.
Now if it's a guitar battle, give me a call.
If it's a guitar battle, you could. I don't think they know how to play guitar, so I think that we could win that one. I think you would win.
There we go. But if it's a bass
if there was
battle,
some sort of like
Cammy.
musical theater, like a cappella battle, like in Glee, maybe I could stand a chance. But Carson was in choir too.
If we were to put on a music, who would put on the better musical between Stay Hot and Nerd Sesh? That's the real question.
The better musical between Stay Hot and Nerd Sesh? I think we could have a chance if it was a musical battle.
If it was just like
Carson has that
better,
whimsy
like,
though. I don't know. Like him and Logan have that.
I feel like Matt has some whimsical.
Matt can break out the whimsy. He might be our secret weapon.
I don't know if I'd be very good at a musical, but I am whimsical. I
You
like
are
to
whimsical.
think.
I think you could maybe help in the writer's room, and then the musical could maybe just be me and Blaiden.
I would,
and
maybe
have
I
your
could do like
hand because
There we go.
we have an extra guy, so
That's true.
That's true.
It could be.
We have the advantage.
We wouldn't maybe need your musical talent as much as your like whimsical ideas.
Okay,
Yeah.
I could do that.
That pretty much wraps things up for this episode of Stay Hot. We rambled a bit at the end there, but it's always a fun time when we do that, I feel like. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be back, probably talk about the NBA playoffs here pretty soon, as well as get ready for the NFL draft, as that is now only 2 weeks away. But less than 2 weeks away. But until next time, we will catch you on the flippity flop.